You are listening to Black Girl Missing, a podcast that covers stories of Black girls who were reported missing when they were under the age of 18. When Black girls go missing, their cases are severely underreported in mainstream media. We want to shift the narrative. We invite you to listen, learn, and do whatever you can to help us bring as many girls home as possible. You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Please remember to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite platform so that we can keep bringing you the stories of Black girls that need to be told. Due to the sensitive and sometimes graphic nature of these cases, we advise you to use caution when listening.
We open each show reviewing cases of girls who are currently missing that we call the Aisha Alert. We encourage you to pay close attention, check our social media, and help us help the families who are still seeking answers and long for their loved one's safe return. We'd like to note that we create these lists of currently missing Black girls in real time, so by the time the podcast episodes are released, there may have been changes. We will have information on each case posted on our social media channels so that you can stay updated. Brianna Thompson is a 16-year-old girl from Covington, Georgia. Brianna left her home in the Velat Fern Lane area on Wednesday, September 30th. While her direction of travel wasn't known, the sheriff's office said she may be in the Griffin Lane area of Covington, Georgia. She is a Black girl who is about 5 feet 1 inches tall and 140 pounds. Anyone with information on her location is asked to contact Corporal Mickey Kitchens at 678-625-1515. Naomi Polanco is a 14-year-old girl from the Bronx, New York. Naomi was last seen on Wednesday, September 30th at approximately 5:45 p.m., leaving her residence at 2147 Starling Avenue in the Parchester section of the Bronx. She's described as a Black Hispanic female, 5'2", and weighs 110 pounds. No clothing description is available for the time of her disappearance. Anyone with information in regard to this missing person is asked to call the NYPD's Crime Stopper hotline at 1-800-577-8477 or for Spanish speakers 1-888-57-74782. Kayla Sarday is a 15-year-old girl from Manhasset, New York. Kayla was last seen leaving her Manhasset home at 11 p.m. on Saturday, September 26th. She's described as a Black female with brown hair and brown eyes. She's estimated to be 5'4" and 130 pounds. She was last seen wearing dark jeans with no other description of clothing given. Police said that she might be going to the Hempstead area. Detectives request anyone with information on her whereabouts call the Missing Persons Squad at 516-573-7347.
Welcome back to Black Girl Missing. How's everybody today?
I'm feeling good.
I'm cool. You know,
life is actually feeling all right.
Y'all look good.
Thank you.
We had a great talk this morning. Like for listeners, we had a nice little group chat this morning on the video, on the technology. We used the technology that the young people use. And we was on the group video, and it was nice. It was really nice to connect beyond the microphone.
Yeah.
Certain pandemic times, so it's good to see your faces.
We haven't been able to actually be in the same room for a long time.
Dog. Like, it's hurting. Like, shout out to everybody who is like really feeling that absence and that pain of just not just being around your friends and your family, man.
I need a hug, like immediately.
Hug, right?
Yeah. I was thinking, and you know I'm averse to touch, but I was thinking like I really do need like a legit hug.
Yeah, I feel you. And like I want one from my friends.
Yeah.
Like it's a friend. Like I need a friend hug.
I need a friend hug, like a deep friend hug.
Yeah.
The Black lady rocking back and forth hug.
Yes.
That one where the little tear comes out the corner of your eye because you just get it. They don't have to say nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everybody just knows. And it's love. And it's love only the way the sisters can do it, right?
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. That's how I'm feeling. But I'm also feeling like really, really good. And as the church folk will say, I'm feeling blessed. You know, I'm feeling blessed.
That's true. I feel that.
You know,
I feel that. That's
good to see you. Let's go.
We deserve that.
We deserve that. Every Black girl and woman deserves that.
We do. Asa, what you got for us today?
All right. So today we are discussing the case of Myra Lewis, who it was a 2-year-old girl who went missing from her parents' front yard Saturday, March 1st, 2014, on Mount Pilgrim Road in Camden, Mississippi, between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Myra was an adorable little girl with a big smile that many toddlers have whenever you tell them to say cheese. And like many young black girls, her hair was styled in bobos and barrettes. Just adorable. On the day she went missing, her mother, Erica Lewis, saw her and one of her sisters playing in the front yard as she was leaving to go shopping, and told them to go inside where their father, Gregory Lewis, was taking care of their 1-month-old. This is where some wires got crossed. Erica believed Myra had gone to the store with her mother. By the time Erica returned home, hours had passed until she realized she was missing. That was around 3 p.m. It's important to note here exactly what type of area they lived in. The area of Camden where they lived is very rural. Neighbors were spaced out widely, and their home was surrounded by woods, and across the street was a large pond. In a newscast done right after her disappearance, it was noted that the temperature outside was about 25 degrees, which increased the urgency of the search as they initially believed she had wandered into the woods.
Oh man, a toddler. Yeah, that's that cold weather.
Yeah. So y'all see this picture of their home. A pretty typical standard rural country house yard.
Yeah,
very large yard.
It's got a lot of trees. There's a lot of surrounded by a lot of trees. Is that a lake?
Yes. So they did an aerial view. The aerial view is more recent, from about 2018, when they were going over the case again. That and that's the lake that's across from her home. So when both her parents realized that she was missing, her father searched for her on his ATV and with the family dogs for about an hour. When he couldn't find her, they called the police. 4 to 5 hours after she was last seen, police from several agencies and volunteers searched a 4-mile radius around the home, including the pond across the street. Air support and the FBI were brought in to help in the search as well. Dogs from the K9 unit picked up her scent in the area of her front yard, but once they got to the gate, her scent was gone, leaving investigators feeling like she had just vanished into thin air. On Sunday, March 2nd, an Amber Alert was issued.
It's interesting,
Well, go ahead.
I'm kind of thinking like this was a lot coming in. Is it because it was a rural area and they don't get a lot of action? I wonder if sometimes in the cities they don't get as much attention because there's so much going on. Right. But maybe because it was a rural area, they had the resources.
Yeah, that's probably the most plausible. Or like they called in so many different jurisdictions because their police force is small.
Yeah. Okay.
So here's my question though, because a lot of people, when a child goes missing, they ask, why isn't there an Amber Alert? Why isn't there an Amber Alert? And sometimes the children who are missing don't fit the activation criteria. And I know for Amber Alerts, they have to be able to confirm that an abduction took place. The child has to be at risk for injury or death, I believe. And there has to be descriptive information of a captor or a vehicle or something. So if she vanished into thin air,
why would they have?
Why was there an Amber Alert? That is a good question. There was nothing about possible kidnapping that that they could tell. It just really seemed like the most plausible explanation is that she wandered off.
They may have misused the Amber Alert. That happens too. Sometimes they'll issue an Amber Alert without meeting the criteria.
And considering when this took place, Amber Alerts weren't super old at that time.
That's true.
It had really only been maybe a decade or so.
We haven't done a whole lot with Amber Alerts because we've done these like really older cases.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay.
So by Thursday, the on the ground search was pulled back, and neighbors and drivers passing through were questioned. On Friday, specialized search teams returned to the area, and Mount Pilgrim Road was closed to everyone except for residents and law enforcement. Heavy machinery could be seen digging up an area where a recent septic system work had been done. And this same day, Erica Lewis was arrested on a probation violation because a firearm was found in her home, and she was a felon due to a prior conviction for food stamps fraud.
No.
Yes. She was in jail for 11 weeks, all while her baby girl was missing.
Over food stamps.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. And this comes right as we learn about the president of the United States be like only paying $750 in taxes. You know what? Anyway.
Okay. So by the following Monday, the FBI was offering a $20,000 reward for anyone that helped them locate Myra. Also, at this point, the other children were removed from the home because reportedly their house was condemned.
Come on.
Yeah.
So, see, this is what we be talking about. We be talking about why we don't go to the police.
Mm-hmm.
Why we don't bring the police and the law enforcement into our situations, because they focus on everything other than the pressing issue.
Mm-hmm.
My toddler is gone, and you are nitpicking at a bunch of other stuff that is completely it's unimportant for the moment.
Right.
We can revisit that later.
Mm-hmm.
Like
so
right
now
now,
you have the trauma of one child going missing and then your other two kids being taken from you.
Trash. This is awful. Just awful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Both of Myra's parents took and passed the polygraph test, as well as other members of her family. Madison County Sheriff Randy Tucker said that the relatives had been fully cooperative and had turned over their SUV for inspection, as well as a number of undisclosed items from their home. At one point in the investigation, there were potential sightings of her in Memphis, Tennessee. A worker at a hotel said she thought she saw Myra with some man, but when police arrived, the pair were already gone. There was no other information about that. The family has since moved away, and according to Sheriff Tucker, they do not call in to check about the case, and he has no way to contact them because they didn't leave a forwarding phone number or address as of 2019.
Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's compare this to other stories we have heard where the families never let up. They 18 years later, 20 years later, they're still checking in every week, every month.
Yeah.
This is rubbing me the wrong way, y'all.
It rubbed me the wrong way too, but then I'm also thinking about their relationship with this particular police department. My daughter goes missing, you arrest me because there's a firearm in the house. Mind you, we live in the woods. Everybody got a gun.
You don't have a gun.
Yeah.
Have you seen those raccoons?
Mm-hmm. And then you take my other two children away.
Yeah, that's a lot of trauma.
Yeah. So while it doesn't necessarily sit well with me, if I'm looking at it from their point of view, I can kind of understand why they would be skeptical about, giving where they're next living.
So there's some things that are sticking out for me, geographically, in particular, because this took place in Camden, Mississippi, right? That's like the Madison County area. Yeah. Now, like when you said she had no scent. It was like she vanished into thin air.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many areas in Madison County, Mississippi that have bodies of water. And
Right.
them living right next to one is this very, very large reservoir. That, I mean, anything could happen. If she wandered into the woods and fell into the water, gone.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't no telling what may have gotten a hold of her. She could have drowned, anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to think about that. I want to believe that she's still alive. But Madison County, I-55 runs right through Madison County.
Mm-hmm.
And for her to have been possibly sighted, or a possible sighting in Memphis, I-55 runs right through Madison County up to Memphis, and then Memphis to north.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to get to the Madison County area, depending on where exactly you are and where you're coming from, it's about 2.5 to 3 hours. That's not really that long of a time.
Right.
If you are trying to mobilize to find somebody, you can get really damn far in a couple of hours, because by the time you call in your lieutenant and you have devised a plan to look for this child, 3 hours has passed.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's in a whole nother state.
Right. I'm looking at this map where Camden, Mississippi is dead center in the middle of the state. And you can get to Louisiana, and you can get to Georgia, Missouri real quick. That's Missouri on top of Louisiana, right? I don't know the states. But I'm looking at it, I'm like you said, Tennessee, right there. Like Tennessee is a little bit further, but you can get to Georgia or Louisiana real quick.
So you have I-20 and you have I-55, and they intersect. So it makes almost like a cross, like a T-shaped situation. So you can go north, south, east, or west very easily from that area. It's nothing for you to find an interstate, and it doesn't even matter which one you find. You just find one and you get on it and you're gone.
Right.
And another thing about living in rural areas is, and you live in a rural area where there's the interstate nearby and there's large bodies of water, that means you got random animals, vagrants, people that came from wherever, just transient individuals hitchhiking or whatever. You got to worry about all of that. Of course they had a gun. Of course they have an ATV.
Yes. And like with them saying that the dogs lost her scent right at the front gate, that is an abduction seems like the most plausible explanation.
So I just want to go back real quick. I don't know. This is a toddler. Mama went shopping. Told her to go inside.
Yeah.
Didn't tell the dad, I'm sending the kids inside. I'm going shopping.
That's really like
Dad thinks that the baby is with her.
Yep.
Nobody realizes anything for 5 hours. That don't make sense to me. I'm sorry.
No, it doesn't. That's a long time.
That's a long time for you to not notice that there's no baby and there's no communication between the two of you. You went to the grocery store in the morning. And by 3:00, you didn't talk at all to the father to check on the kids or anything like that, or he didn't say anything. And she's a toddler, so it's a good chance that he might have been like, "Hey, can you pick up something?" Or "Hey, she's acting kind of weird." Something. There's no communication between the two of them for 5 hours.
Yeah. And this is 2014, where everybody had cell phones.
They had cell phones. It don't matter how rural it was. Y'all had cell phones. Nobody communicated. And this idea that nobody noticed she wasn't around is really troubling me. And then, they say they looked for her for another hour. And I'm sorry. I want to know what they did to that baby. I'm sorry. I don't mean, okay, you know what? Let me pull it back.
I get it. But I'm also,
I made right, y'all. We're talking a family with, and granted, I don't want the police coming at them and whatever, but police are taking the kids. The house is not, safe for them to live in. They got them on the food stamp fraud. They got the gun in the house, and blah, blah, blah. There's all these different things that it's like, okay, that's cool, but the baby's missing. But then also, is the baby missing in relation to any of these things? Like, what else is going on with these parents? And I'm sorry. I'm struggling with this time gap.
Yeah.
Because, I'm trying to think back to when my son was this age. There was no 5 hour gap of time that I could even fathom
Yeah.
where there wasn't some kind of communication, even if it was just a text message from his dad, like, "Hey, he pooped on the floor." I'm like, "Great, nice, go wipe it up." Like, what do you want from
Yeah,
me? Like, I'm out,
this is true.
or hey, I would go in the house and send them in the house, or I would text on a text and say, "Hey, I sent the girls inside. I'm running to the store right quick.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be back. Keep your eye on them," or something like.
Yeah.
I just, something is really, and then she's saying, like this idea that she, I don't know. I just think she's too young to be like go inside. And
Yeah,
I
definitely.
find it
And
I
like,
find it
I don't know if it was because she was with her older sister and she was like, if I tell your older sister to go inside, she's going to take you too, or what. But like, thinking a 2-year old's going to listen to that instruction,
or even really
nah.
understand what it means.
Yeah.
I find it particularly negligent that you thought telling a 2-year-old
Yes.
to go in the house without like connecting that child
No,
with another
got.
adult.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would have taken you just a second to grab her hand, walk her in, and say, "Hey, I'm going to the store. I'll be back. Watch
Mm-hmm.
her."
Yeah.
Giving her a directive, she's a baby.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can't depend on babies to do really anything you ask them to. I
Yeah.
mean, you can say, "Give me your hand," and they may or may not do that
Mm-hmm.
because they're babies.
Yeah.
And
So I'm so concerned about what was happening and like what type of parenting styles are you exhibiting that you thought
Mm-hmm.
that was the move, that that's what you should be doing, is telling a 2-year-old to go in the house. You didn't check in with the guy or anything. The guy let 5 hours pass. So what really happened?
Mm-hmm.
and this could be why there's so now I start thinking like I want to see the child protective services cases on them. I want to know like if
Mm-hmm.
there's a history
Yeah.
there, if there was something related to neglect and things like that. But I'm particularly interested in the fact that there's a $20,000 reward to this
Yes.
to this day for this information, and they've had tips that they
Mm-hmm.
followed up on, credible ones, but the parents are incommunicative.
Yeah.
Like I just something about that. Like I get it.
Yeah.
Like you don't trust the
So
police and blah
please.
blah blah,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But you know what? You can always request to talk to somebody else.
This is true.
You can always contact and say, you know what? I don't like the way y'all treated me, but my child is missing,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to know what happened to her.
Yeah. It's just always really hard for me to wrap my head around the parents having something to do with the disappearance. Like, I know it happens, very aware of that. It's just, it's never my first go to thought because it just seems so just otherworldly, like just
No, I
completely
get it.
abnormal.
I get it. And the thing is, I don't immediately go to that, right? Like how they say when a woman dies, the first suspect is her male partner,
Mm-hmm.
husband or boyfriend, right? Because we know how femicide is. We know what gender violence is. We know that. And a lot of times they apply that same rationale to black children,
Mm-hmm.
because black mothers in particular are vilified and demonized as just being incompetent and negligent, whatever. And if the fathers are around, there's an assumption of abuse and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, unfortunately, we do have disproportionate rates of these things in our communities. We
Right.
do have a lot of black moms who become parents really young and don't necessarily have the support that they need to learn how to be loving good parents, or they follow a lot of the toxic stuff we've been passing through generations on how we treat our children, or we end up heaping on so much to girls as little as 2, thinking
Mm-hmm.
that like I live in Philadelphia, and I got to say one of the hardest things about living in this city, which has an extremely high poverty rate, and the education here is not that great. I see these women, these young women, like so verbally abusive to their children. I mean, and it's a regular thing. It's not even uncommon. Nobody blinks an eye when they see a woman talking to a toddler and calling them every kind of stupid MF and all these kind of, like, nobody blinks an eye here. And it was one of the most jarring things when I moved to this city. Like, I was to the point where I was like, I kind of want to start some free parenting training here, because what's happening? And how
Yeah.
we like pass on the beating of our children. Well, if we got to beat you so the police don't, or but we learn that from enslavement, right? Like, all these kinds of things that we pass along, that when you see in these kinds of rural spaces, or poor urban spaces, and places where people are not given the support that they need to handle the stress of life and being parents, a lot of times it's projected onto the children. And so as I'm listening to this situation, and I'm hearing about all the other things that are going on, the dilapidated house, food stamp fraud, obviously they struggling, so trying to get, manipulate the system, just all this other stuff. I'm just kind of like, was there this kind of projection from the mother onto Myra, that maybe Myra was older than she was and could understand, go inside and stay in there and I'll be back kind of thing? Or, I don't know. There's just something swirling there. And so, no, it's not my first place to go to that. But we also can't act like we don't have disproportionate rates of child abuse in our community.
Right.
We can't act like that it's not a possibility. If the scent ends at the gates, that's telling me that baby was still on that property, or maybe landed in a pond or something. Did they drain the pond? I didn't see nothing about them draining the pond.
There was no like heavy explanation that I could find about the exact intricacies of the search.
Maybe some of our listeners know, from the area or something, and know a little bit more and can share with us, because I'm really curious about that. When I saw the pictures, my first thing was like, oh, she drowned.
Yeah.
Maybe like, she toddled over into the water somewhere and drowned.
That was my first thought.
Or an animal got her. And easily an animal could have gotten her.
Yeah.
Buried her somewhere out in them woods.
Like, that was initially my first thought, like, the elements got her.
Right.
Because, 2-year-olds will toddle off, and, things happen to 2-year-olds.
If nobody's watching them.
Exactly.
That's another reason why I mentioned there being this rural area where you have interstate and you've got water, and it could be a person, it could be an animal. You never know. There's some of these rural areas, you got mountain lions, you got bears, you got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's, animals that when we live in these urban areas where we don't really see a whole lot of wildlife, then you get out in these woods and it's dark, and there's animals that you've never even seen before, that you've only seen them in books, and you don't even know where they live, and now it's right in front of you.
Bigfoot be right there. Bigfoot just like, what up? Passing through Mississippi today.
And I'm also thinking about the size of Camden. It's so rural that it's like 10 square miles or something like that. It's an unincorporated community. It doesn't really have, it's small. So I'm thinking to myself, what does their police force even look like?
Yeah.
Right.
They can't have more than, maybe 15,000 residents at the most.
They got one post office.
Right. Okay. If you got one post office, you ain't got a lot of people living there.
Yeah.
One post office, one zip code.
When the town is that small, like, I have a lot of family in Mississippi. When you go to these small towns in Mississippi and they say you can walk from one end of town to the next, they mean that.
Oh, yeah.
They mean that. Like, you can literally take a walk in the morning, and by midday you're across town and you done met everybody.
Yep.
Like where I'm from, we wave every time a car goes by because we probably know you. It's just the way that we do things. So seeing how small this area is, I could be really jumping the gun here, but I'm just going to do it. I don't see this being a random abduction, not in a town that small. That doesn't make sense. So even if, like, let's say the parents didn't have anything to do with this, and she, wandered off, or maybe she wandered off with somebody else that maybe she knew or she recognized, fine. It was not random, and it wasn't a stranger.
Right.
Because when you live in a town that small, even when it is rural, you're gonna notice somebody you've never seen around there before.
Absolutely.
And we've seen plenty of cases where people go missing and they are in their neighborhood for years, just in a house somewhere.
Next door.
Yeah.
Right
next door. They make Lifetime movies about it.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do
Yeah.
it.
Well,
so, yeah, at the time she went missing, Myra had black hair and brown eyes. She stood at 2 feet 10 inches tall and last weighed 27 pounds. She was last known to be wearing a turquoise sweater with the image of a bear on the front, off-white or khaki pants, and pink sneakers. Anyone with information that can help the Madison County investigators with this case is asked to call the Sheriff's Department at 601-859-2345.
Did you just say a 2-year-old weighed 27 pounds?
Yes.
Curiouser and curiouser.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was almost 3 feet tall.
That's some serious malnutrition.
Yeah.
She was almost 3 feet tall, too.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. What on earth?
So, yeah, that was...
And don't y'all be calling us and writing to us saying, my 3-year-old was only 25 pounds. Okay, you were even. We get it. Like, okay.
Call Kamala. I'm sorry.
Call Kamala. We don't mean any
Good day.
Go by the nurse.
But honestly, like, this is one of the cases that I researched where it had the least amount of information.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, I guess, because it didn't seem nefarious to most people, to like the investigators. So even the news coverage was like, vanished into thin air. This is the only this is like the only missing persons case where we just couldn't find anything. It was,
which is what makes me think it was like an animal or something. Like, mm-hmm. I'm still going back to this. Like, I just kind of feel like she may have seen a raccoon and thought it was a dog and chased it into the woods, and then it just, you know, I don't know. I just feel like it was something freak. I don't know. If it wasn't the parent, then it was something freak.
But it also kind of goes hand in hand with the small town and the lack of resources.
Yeah, that's true.
Where they did have to call in all these other agencies, and, you know, it's not something that happens often there. So
the other thing I'm thinking is they took her, and when they left, like, they had her there the whole time and took her and moved, changed names or something, started over. Something was going on, maybe with the fraud situation. Maybe they got all new identity. I don't know, like something different. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I don't know. There's a lot that can go on. We can speculate forever. But, you know, with these cases that have so little information, all we can do is just kind of think of the possibilities and share them, you know, with the listeners. And, you know.
I would really like to be able to, you know, do cases where the girl's been found, but they seem so few and far between.
And I can't help it. Just, it's when we laugh and we, like, you know, make light of the situation. It's not because it's funny. It's because what the hell?
What the hell?
It's the absurdity of it all.
It's absolutely absurd. It's absurd.
It's ridiculous. And I keep thinking about how many different times in the story where I'm thinking mentally, oh, that was a drop ball. That was a drop ball. That was a drop ball. Yeah. Who in the hell? Why is this? And why not that? And it makes us always question these law enforcement agencies. And that's why we say the system don't work, because you have these things in place to keep people safe, supposedly. And then when it's time to use them, the shit don't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Like this is a small town. You don't have any money. You're calling on outside agencies. But if this is a little black girl and her mom is a criminal, she's a felon, she done scammed the system for some food stamps and some more mess, you're not going to find value in that 2-year-old's life. You're not going to try real hard to look for her.
You're not. That's what, absolutely. And they got all these other issues. You're too busy looking to see how you can nail this family.
Yeah.
And take these other kids, you know. You put the mother in jail for 11 weeks while her child was missing.
Yeah.
And then took her other kids away.
That would break me.
And I talk about this on my personal social media quite frequently. I mention how there is profit to be made in problems when it comes to law enforcement and government and things like that. There was money to be made in taking the kids away and putting them in foster care. Somebody got paid from that. There's money to be made when you say, well, she's a felon, lock her up. Somebody got paid from that. Nobody gets paid when you find a missing child. There's no money there. And I hate saying that.
But it's real. It's real. You got to say that.
I hate saying that, but it's real, and it pisses me off. And sorry, I'm yelling, but I'm because she was 2. She's a baby. She didn't get a chance to really do anything, and nobody was going to break their neck to find her because she was just a liability. She's a liability to society because she's a girl, she's Black, and she was a baby. That's a liability for them. They're not making any money off of finding her or helping her. They're just spending their resources on this poor Black life that has this felon of a mama. And they ain't keeping their house up, and they ain't got no food and all this other stuff. So it's like, what's the point?
Let's talk about JonBenet. They have not let that go. Similar circumstances. Vanished into thin air. Yeah. Same situation, but she was white. She was a white girl. And she had a white uterus
every year
that could produce more white people.
There is not 1 year since that girl has gone missing that she has not been on my television.
Listen.
And I feel terrible that she was abducted. And I'm sorry for that because I never want anything bad to happen to any child. I don't care where that kid comes from. But she been gone a long time, bruh. Why we got to see her all the time?
It's an obsession. It's an obsession at this point. And it's like we have to, when we do this stuff, and we have to remind our audiences about who is assigned value in our society. And we think about white people, we think about men, we think about heterosexuals, we think about able-bodied, able-minded people, we think about wealthy people, we think about, all those types of folks are always prioritized above others because of how we think about society and what matters in society. And so if somebody's seen, like you said, as a liability, it's like, what's the point? And I struggle with that too. It's just like, and that's why we do this, right, y'all? Like, this is why we do this, because all these girls matter. Every single one of them matters.
You're not a liability.
You're not a liability. You're 7. She's 7 years old now.
Yeah.
Oh no, she's more. She's older than that. She's born in 2011. She's what? She's 9, 8 or 9. Like, she's not even 10 years old yet.
Yeah.
But she still matters.
Yeah. And who knows? She could be over in a neighboring town, Kosciuszko or Franklin or Jackson or something
with a new name. Because she won't remember her name being Myra.
Nope. Not at 2 years old. Nope. It takes a short time to adjust to like a new person, a new body, a new family, and then she forgot all about that other family that she had when she was 2. And this is going to sound a little bit morose, and I apologize for that. But when these girls go missing, there is part of me that wishes that there is a family that has them and is raising them with love.
Yeah.
Because I would rather these girls be with a family than something foul happening to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like that happens a lot in these things. Like my mind always at the back is like, what family member got this baby somewhere? Golly. Okay.
Yep. I believe that because, and we've talked about this in past episodes, that so much matter is left behind by a deceased body that there's no way all of these missing Black girls are just deceased. It's just not, it's not realistic. A lot of them are alive and they're either being raised by other families or they're around. They're here. We just got to look for them. And it's a lot of folks outside that say, I don't see color. It's because they don't see us. We are invisible to them.
Totally invisible.
Yeah.
They don't look at our facial features. We all look the same to them.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, now you know what? Nope, that's it. Nope, not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. Thank you, Asa.
Bring it back in, James.
That's a good one, Asa. Thank you so much.
But we are going to continue to do this work because they, like I said, are not a liability. These lives are important to us. This work is important to us. We are dedicated to it.
Yeah. Let's send some love to our we got Patreon subscribers. Like we got folks that
Yes.
like dog, we have like 1,000 Facebook likes.
So
That's
exciting.
Amazing. Like, oh my gosh. Y'all love us. Thank you so much. Like, thank you so much for rocking with us. You know, we are like on the second half of season 2 right now. We are totally independent. This is a labor of love. 3 concerned Black women, and you all are rocking with us and you're sharing it. Like, we are so honored and so excited. Like, thank you. We just got to thank y'all every now and then. Just thank you so
And
much.
during a pandemic, like that's impressive.
Listen.
I'm excited, and I'm so blessed. I feel honored to be doing this with y'all, and for people to actually be listening to us and sharing it, liking us on Facebook, subscribing to our Patreon, retweeting the posts and the Aisha alerts on Twitter. Like, it's just amazing.
Sharing on Instagram. Like, let's do it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. All right. See y'all next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Have a good one.
Black Girl Missing Podcast is researched, written, and produced by 3 concerned Black women who want justice for missing Black girls. Today's episode was written by Asa Todd, produced by Nikki Irene, and the Black Girl Missing theme was produced by Siraj Khalif. Be sure to follow us on social media. On Twitter, we are at Black Girl Missing. That's BLK Girl Missing. On Facebook, we're at Black Girl Missing Pod. On Instagram, we're at Black Girl Missing Podcast. Visit our website for more information about each case, blackgirlmissingpod.com. Contact us on social media or email us at blackgirlmissingpodcast@gmail.com with any tips, feedback, or names of girls you want us to look into. You can support Black Girl Missing by subscribing to our Patreon, where you will receive exclusive behind-the-scenes content and bonus episodes. Go to Patreon/Black Girl Missing Podcast and subscribe today. We really appreciate the support.